All right, let's talk about the robin. It's a bird we all feel like we know, right? You see it on Christmas cards, it's that first sign of spring, maybe it's even a familiar face in your garden. But the story of the robin, well, it's a whole lot more complicated and honestly, way more interesting than you might think. Seriously, take a second, close your eyes and picture it. What comes to mind? Is it a small bird with a bright reddish-orange chest? Maybe it's sitting on a snowy branch, or is it busy pulling a worm from a lawn? What you're picturing right now actually says a whole lot about which side of the pond you're on, because the robin you're thinking of is probably one of these two. Over in Europe, you've got the plump, almost perfectly round European robin. But in the Americas, you've got the larger, sleeker American robin. Sure, they share a name and that famous red breast, but as we're about to find out, that's pretty much where the similarities end. And this, right here, is the heart of the whole thing. The Atlantic Ocean basically separates two completely different species, and over time, each one has carved out its own unique biology, its own personality, and its own special place in our culture. So how did they end up with the same name? Let's get into it. Okay, this is the part that gets most people. It's not like they're distant cousins who just drifted apart over the millennia. No, we are talking about two birds from completely different branches of the avian family tree. It's a massive case of mistaken identity, played out on a continental scale. It's also a pretty cool example of how nature can land on the same general idea, a bird with the red breast, from two totally different blueprints. So to really understand just how different they are, we've got to look at their family trees. This is where the science really pulls back the curtain and shows us what's going on. And here it is, the fundamental split. The American robin, it's a true thrush, part of the Turdidae family. But the European robin, it belongs to a completely different family, the Musicapidae, or the Old World flycatchers. Biologically speaking, they aren't even close. You know, to put that into perspective, the American robin's closest relatives include birds famous for their beautiful songs, like the common blackbird. The European robin, on the other hand, its family is full of master insect hatchers, like the legendary nightingale. You can already start to see how their very nature, their family traits, hint at totally different lifestyles. So how did this happen? How would they get the same name? Well, it all started back in 15th century Europe with the nickname robin redbreast. Then, centuries later, when European settlers got to North America, they saw a bird with a reddish breast, and probably feeling a bit homesick, they just named it after the bird they missed from back home. Simple as that. Now let's move beyond their family trees, because their personalities, oh man, they could not be more different. That charming, cute little image we have of the European robin, especially, it hides a much, much more aggressive reality. This quote just nails it. That little bird you see on all the Christmas cards is, in real life, unbelievably territorial. We're talking both males and females defending their patch of land with everything they've got, sometimes even fighting to the death. And get this, that iconic orange breast, it has nothing to do with attracting a mate. It's a biological keep out sign. That bright color is basically a weapon used in turf wars, puffed out to intimidate any other robin that even thinks about trespassing. And then you have the American robin, which is pretty much the polar opposite. I mean, sure, they'll defend a small territory during breeding season, but for most of the year, they are total social butterflies, gathering in these huge, massive flocks to hang out. And when I say massive, I mean it. The estimated population is around 370 million. That makes the American robin the most numerous land bird in all of North America. It's that sociability, that adaptability, that has made it so incredibly successful. So, this deep split in their biology and behavior has led to a really fascinating split in our cultures. On their own continents, each robin has become an absolute icon, but for completely different seasons. See, the European robin is a year-round resident in a lot of places, like the UK, which has about 10% of the entire global population. This constant presence, we're talking over 60 million breeding pairs across Europe, has allowed it to become deeply woven into the culture, especially during those cold winter months. Its connection to Christmas is the perfect example. It all starts in Victorian Britain. The postmen back then wore these bright red uniforms, and people started calling them robins. Then, in the late 1800s, people began putting pictures of actual robins on Christmas cards to represent those postmen delivering the mail. The tradition just stuck, and today, that bird is a symbol of the holiday season. Now, let's hop back across the Atlantic because it's a completely different story for the American robin. For most of North America, it's a migratory bird. So its return and that cheerful song after a long, cold winter, well, that's seen as the official announcement that winter is finally over and spring has arrived. This connection is so deep that it's just woven into American literature. The famous poet Emily Dickinson used the arrival of the first robin as this powerful and, in her case, kind of sad symbol of the inevitable change of seasons. It is the bird of spring. Now, because it's been such a constant companion in Europe for so long, the European robin in particular has this incredible amount of folklore surrounding it. We're talking tales of devotion, legends about gods, and even superstitions about life and death. One of the most famous Christian folktales is the story of how the robin got its red breast. The legend goes that a plain little brown bird in the manger saw that the baby Jesus was cold, so it flew to the fire and fanned the embers with its wings to make them glow. But a spark flew out and burned its chest, staining it red forever as a mark of its compassion. And the stories just keep going. In Norse mythology, the robin was said to be protected by Thor himself. In British folklore, seeing a robin is often seen as a visit from the spirit of a loved one who has passed away. And poets like William Blake saw the bird as a pure symbol of natural freedom, something so precious it would be a sin to ever cage it. So, at the end of the day, what do we have? Two different birds from two different families with two totally different personalities. And yet, because of a simple color and a name that was carried across an ocean, they both became these powerful cultural icons. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much of what we see in nature is about the animal itself, and how much is about the stories we decide to tell.